Wow. What is going on, everybody? Shrimp keepers, native fish keepers, just the aquarium enthusiasts. All the cameras are different. I got to remember which one's the main camera. I got my Rob camera. I think I see the main camera now. But anyway, today we are talking about all things snails. So I brought the one, the only Jay Snail with me today.
Jay Snail.
Jay Guppy.
Man of many names.
Man of many names. So Cody, why don't you tell them about what you do here? I know that most people that are regular viewers probably know what you do here, but why don't you give them a little rundown of who you are and what you do?
There is a all-encompassing of what I do. There's so many things under my name. But first of all, I am Jay Guppy for a reason, because I do the breeding of the guppies downstairs in our breeding racks. Go check out some of those old videos about the breeding racks.
We just had a short come out, didn't we?
I think so.
Did that come out, Emily? Oh, man.
It will be coming out.
Okay. Fat and beautiful.
Yeah. I'm overseeing our husbandry team, making sure that all the fish, snails, all the livestock and live foods all maintain and stay healthy. I'm looking at inventory daily, making sure that all our stocks are updated, and I'm working with Rob to get ordering fish from different countries or ordering plants from where they come from. What else do I do? I think that's pretty much it.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. It's a lot of work.
Just the husbandry side of it's a lot. Just the inventory side of it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Just the breeding of guppies could be a lot.
It could be a lot. Yes.
There is a lot.
Yes, my mind is running all day of where I think I should be, and I feel like I'm never in the right spot.
I don't think it's just your mind. I think you're also running.
I literally am running,
all day.
yes. And we have 2 buildings, in case you didn't know. So I'm literally
darting
back and forth all day. So,
you do all the testing,
determining medication. I'm the doctor of the house as well, so I'll make prescriptions for things I think I need, medicated. So
anyway, Jay Guppy does a lot around here. And so anyway, today we are talking about snails. Last week we talked about a little bit. The week before we talked about a little bit. We've been talking about the new system we have going in. We actually just started working on that system yesterday.
Yeah.
So do you want to kind of tell the viewer of what we have going on with that system and what it looks like?
So right now we have 12 125-gallon tanks downstairs, full of a lot of things.
A lot of things.
We use them for Endler breeding. We have snails in them. We have live plants in them. We have shrimp in them. In every one of those, there's all of those things. So right now what we're doing is we're going to start breaking down the 125s on one side. So there's like 6 and 6, one row and one row. We're going to break down one side, and then we're going to put in a bunch of 10 gallons, which we kind of said it was going to be like 100. Is it going to be
126, I believe,
per side or total?
Yeah, because it's 36 times 3.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of 10-gallon tanks downstairs as soon as we get all these 125s.
I don't even know. Down. 36 times 3. What was that? 72, 108? Maybe it's 108. Maybe my math just is bad.
Per one side.
Yeah.
So there's going to be 216 10-gallon tanks when we're all said and done.
Yep.
Half of them are going to be breeding tanks for guppies, mollies, endlers. The other half is going to be all snails. So right now I've broken down, Dinah and I broke down 6 of them yesterday, and Mark's down there working on.
And of course, he started on the guppy side. Oh, here we go.
First of all, we made a deal, and he said, "Okay, you can have your tanks in less than a month." I said, "Bet, let's do it."
Oh, you're gonna get them in like 2 weeks. The way we're going. I mean, it depends on how long Marcus takes, because Marcus is our handyman. He's the one that makes it all happen. Yeah. And so right now he's not too happy about all these changes. He's like the grumpy old man that we have around that like. We're like, hey, Mark, here's what we want to do. We need you to do. And he's just like, love him.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Good old Mark.
He's a good guy.
Old, reliable.
So that's what we're working on right now. It's a lot of manpower. Those tanks are heavy. I don't know how.
Oh, did you guys actually move some of them already?
Yeah, we moved 6 of them yesterday.
Dude, they are heavy.
Jeez.
Imagine carrying those down the steps.
I understand. That's crazy. He was talking about it yesterday. I'm like, there's no way.
If he was talking about it, he wasn't actually a part of it. No, he was.
No, we got them to their home for now. and he's taking down the plumbing and gonna replumb and
Nice.
start working on the racks. So then I can get some J Gup line guppies ready to go for you guys. We got some mollies in that are pretty unique to us and I guess a lot of places.
Yeah. The Liberty Molly, Pacific Molly, and Dwarf Molly.
Yes. Apparently they're pretty rare, so keep an eye on our website to see when those get listed.
We get any babies yet?
We don't have any babies yet, but I've separated some pretty sweet colors already.
You picked out the best of the best?
I picked out the best.
Nice. Yep. That's what I'm talking about.
And the Liberty ones are, as you would expect, they are red, white, and blue, so they are going to be beautiful when they start breeding. So
that's awesome.
I'm excited. Yeah. I never thought about it until he's like, hey, these mollies are coming in, and he's like, they're pretty rare, so let's get them breeding. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, this is what happens with our ordering process. Is sometimes it's like, hey, we place the order, and there's half of a box that we still have to fill because you don't want to just order 3/4 of a box because you're paying anywhere from I'd say $300 upwards of $1,000 per box for shipping. And so you want to utilize as much of that box as possible. So like it will come down to where, hey, we have 3/4 of a box. What are we going to fill with the other one? And then it's like, no, let's get some new and rare stuff. And yeah. And I was kind of under the gun with we ordered that from Germany, which they have some rare stuff, and it had to be in. And so I was just like, this sounds good. Let's get one of those. Let's get 3 of these. And
which we don't order from Germany a lot.
No, that was actually our first order from Germany. And it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, we got the is that where we got the gold dust mollies too? Or is that from somebody else? Okay.
No.
Anyways, I think mollies are kind of jumping on one of my top fishes. I think I'm gonna have to surpass the minnow, but just those gold ones, just the gold lyre tail mollies that we have, they're just beautiful.
Well, let's circle back to the snails.
Yeah.
So let's start really, really broad. What is your favorite type of snail?
So my favorite type of snail, we talked about it probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, is the magenta mystery snail. But it is our purple albino.
Gotcha. The magenta mystery snail. For me, I know that you said it and now it's like fresh in my mind. I do really love rabbit snails. I would say like the ones that are like solid yellow or orange as far as like the tone of their skin. They're just awesome. Like they're just like big, gentle giants.
Yeah. It's just like a elephant.
Yeah, they are like it. They got that huge trunk.
Well, that's what they're called. They're also called an elephant snail, aren't they?
I actually don't know.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rabbit snails are just
look
awesome.
Like they resemble an elephant trunk.
And the cool thing about them, I know that snails get a bad rap, and the reason they get a bad rap is because they populate too quick. They take over the tank. People look at them as pests. But rabbit snails are live bears, and they only have one baby at a time. And so, like, if you did want to manage the population, it'd be really easy to. Whereas, like, some of like ram's horn snails, pond snails, like those suckers just lay eggs everywhere. Next thing you know, like you have one, and then you got 10 million. So, like, those are the ones that like pain in the butt.
Yeah, and I see a lot of posts on Facebook and stuff talking about people got fish orders from different places, and all of a sudden now their tank is overridden with bladder snails, or you just get one in there, and you're done.
Oh yeah, you're done. You see one, game over.
That's it. And, but I mean, even with mystery snail eggs, they're not easy to, you can hatch them, but I mean under the right conditions.
Oh yeah,
but they're not always going to hatch.
They're not always going to hatch.
Unless you're preparing for that. But
I do want to start breeding them though. I think it would be a fun project.
Yeah.
I mean, they breed accidentally in our tanks right now. I mean, maybe not accidentally, like with a little bit of intentionality. Is that a word?
Intentionality.
Is that
being intentional?
Yes. Okay. We got the okay from the boss. It is a word. So, anyway, yeah, the team will like see them and like try to keep. They're making fun of us, but
with mystery snail eggs, didn't you say that there's some type of process you have to spray them? You have to.
Yeah. So like, dude, I've honestly like it's really fascinated me, and I've never really taken the time to do it. So I have been like looking more into it because I just think it's unique. And there's ways that you can have like floating styrofoam on top of the tank, then also have like a piece of sponge that comes over it, so it's constantly wet,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they can always be moist. And then really, you don't have to do anything else. So like, there's a lot of like methods that you could do it. And then as soon as they hatch, they just crawl over the sides, and then they're in the tank.
Yeah.
So like, it's really interesting. Like, I do want to give it a go. We don't have the manpower to do it at the moment.
Yeah, everybody's a little strapped right now.
We're stretched a little thin, but I did want to take a minute before we get further and just give a shout out to all of our club members. We have our first club talk coming up this Sunday, right, Leather? This Sunday. What time is it? At 6 o'clock. So I'll be doing that. It will be kind of like a real fun one-on-one experience. Kind of what I'm thinking is we'll spend 60 minutes about going over like a presentation, talking about neocaridino shrimp, basically how to keep them, how to breed them, how to set up a right tank for them. And then we'll spend like 30 minutes just chatting it up, going over, any questions that you guys might have. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And then we're going to bring some other people in going into the new year. So that's coming up. And then today we rotate back and forth. Today is only members are able to talk, get their questions answered. And so if you're here and you're not a member of our club, that's why you're not able to talk this week, but you will be able to talk next week. So we do rotate back and forth. So
is that even through Facebook and stuff?
So Facebook is the one that's different, but we generally don't read comments off of Facebook. I guess Emily might. But this week we would only be focused in on the members talk through YouTube. And so huge shout out to all of our members. It's been a real fun month. We've been doing some members only content, and we did have a new Crystal Club member. Leather, who is that? Paul. So huge shout out to Paul. Became another Crystal Club member for us. So this is for you, Paul, our crystal ornament. And so huge shout out to Paul for joining the Crystal Club. And we just really appreciate all the support from all of our members. And it's been a fun thing. So I did want to say that before we got too much further, because I just want everyone to know how much we appreciate you guys and how excited we are to really grow this aquarium club, the Flip Aquatics Club. And so we did decide for our talk, it's get equipped with Flip. Is that right? Okay. So I know that it was like getting equipped with Flip, like we were back and forth, but get equipped with Flip is kind of like our club talk series. And so it's basically our way of bringing people in to equip our club to better care for livestock, educate them, inspire them, things like that. So yeah,
cool.
So you gonna be watching?
I probably will. We'll see what's going on.
Hey, maybe you can come in and hang out with me while I do it.
Maybe bring some cookies.
Yeah. Oh, let's go. Hey, real quick side story about cookies. So last night I told you like what I ended up doing, and my brother decided, because we were at a place where they sell these big chocolate chip cookies and they're delicious. And so when I was leaving, my brother, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go get some cookies. He's like, oh man, like I'll buy them for you. And then I was like, oh man, like that's the least you could do, like playing with him. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna surprise Amanda. He's like, I'm gonna buy every chocolate chip cookie that they have. So we get there, and I didn't think he was actually going to do it. We get there, and I order the 2 cookies, and he's like, how many chocolate chip cookies do you have? And they're like, I don't know, like the whole top row. He's like, I'll buy all of them. She's like, are you serious? And he's like, yep, I'll buy every single one. So it ended up being 36 chocolate chip cookies, and it was like $98.75.
Oh,
I'm like, dude, you are insane. So I literally was walking out with like 2 huge bags of cookies. Everyone's like eyeing me up, like, what is this guy doing? Like,
but were they as good as mine?
No, absolutely not. But they were still delicious. I'll give you that. And my wife was absolutely shocked because it was kind of like her present. Like, she loves the chocolate chip cookies. And
so you're gonna have to make her some.
No, I'm saying, like, if you are gonna make her some,
she'll never see it.
She'll never see them unless you give them to her. Because they're delicious. Yeah. Cody makes the best chocolate chip cookies.
Another skill set.
I've been trying to bribe him to bring me some. I guess no money has exchanged hands, so maybe that's why it hasn't happened. But like, maybe today's the day.
Hey, maybe if I can leave 30 minutes early and go, I'll bring him on tomorrow. But...
Okay, deal. 30 minutes early, cookies tomorrow.
Oh man, well, what a guy for Keith buying those for you. I mean, that's the least he can do.
Hey, I just got a piece of. I just got a piece of ice in my mouth, and Emily
Almost down
informed
to
me
sell it.
that I have a horrible habit of chewing the ice. So now I have to let it dissolve. And it's much more awkward. Maybe
You might
I
as well
need
just chew it up.
straws. Maybe.
Just have a pass.
Yeah, I'm just gonna warn you, like, hey, we need to pause the live stream for 5 seconds so I can chew this ice. Yeah. So Emily did inform me. She's like, hey, Rob, I meant to tell you, when we're doing our live stream, you just chew ice the whole time.
For all of the live stream,
For-
you chewed ice, except
Yeah.
for last week's.
Literally the entire live stream, you chew ice, and we
Is
need
that a
to
diss on Starbucks for putting too much ice in their coffee?
No, it's a.
or-
I mean,
Also, Starbucks ice is like the worst ice possible.
really?
Yeah, it's not good ice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've never critiqued ice before,
Oh, well,
but
Leather Cheyenne Ramsey over there is a very big critique on ice. If you
It
want to know
makes
which
a
one's good.
difference.
it makes a difference. Oh no. Well,
Oh, man.
so anyway, we have a lot of fun here at Flip Aquatics.
I have a question.
Give it to me.
Are we gonna put snails in our coffee table?
So we actually just decided what's going in there. You already know, don't you?
I do.
So we voted. It was our club voted, right? So it was a club vote. We let everyone participate in this one, where it would normally just be the core club members and the Crystal Club members, because it's our first vote. We wanted to have fun with it. We wanted to get everyone involved, and we put a vote out there for a couple things. Rice fish and guppies literally tied. It was a complete tie, which is crazy that it tied. It was like 30 to 30, or like, I don't know what the number was, but it's something like that. And so then we had to revote. And obviously the whole team pushed everyone to vote guppies. And so there's no rice fish going in here. It's going to be guppies.
I wonder why.
Now we need to decide what guppies will go in here. And then what else is going to go in here? We got to plan it. There's still some stuff to be done on this thing. I know that this week for our members video, Leather really wants to do getting this tank set up because it hasn't been set up yet. And it's been
I don't know. We're getting
been 2 months. This has been a long project that, you know,
we are getting some pretty sweet guppies coming in on Monday though, so maybe we want to hold off a little bit.
I know.
Actually,
So you got lucky because you sent me your order and I thought it was the order that you and Liv. So like Cody and Liv both kind of work hand in hand with the ordering. Cody does the order, Liv kind of like goes over it, makes sure, and then they come together and decide like, okay, this is what we're ordering. And so Cody sent me an order for, what was it, Singapore?
yeah.
So he sent me this order for Singapore, and I'm like, okay, submit it. And then Liv's like, Rob, did you not see the orders that I sent you? And I was just like, no. Like, I thought that this was just the order you guys agreed on. And so she's like, I didn't even really like look at the order. It's like 90% guppies. Like the order is literally all guppies.
Well, with the fish, what we were doing is we were sending each to you, and then you were kind of blending them together.
Oh,
The plants that I would do, she would just check it, and then
you and my wife
I would. But yes,
Vindoozled me. Is that a word?
his wife sent me a list of
Vindoozled.
like what 20 different fish that she wanted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
My wife literally she's like, send me all the import lists. I just want to go through them and then tell you the things that you should get. And so she sent it to me and Cody. And apparently her and Cody came up with this order because there was things on there from what she sent you. And then there's also all these guppies. And I'm just like, oh, like, okay, submit.
I had to fill the box too. So I mean, we got pea puffers we needed.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a couple
When
other
I
things.
saw the pea puffers in there, that's how I know that like Liv had to have played some part into this. Otherwise, it would have been 100% guppies. So that's where like my mind just like was like, oh, like they had to have talked about this because it was guppy, it was pea puffers. And then what was the other thing on there? There was another thing on there that I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was something. Oh, the glow light Danios.
Yes. Okay. So then I'm like, okay, like,
And they were cheaper, 70 cents.
whoa, okay, all right.
They weren't even on the list to buy. I'm like,
I know.
gold mine.
They weren't. You just randomly found them on there.
Yeah.
Did you add them to our list so
Yeah.
we know that we can get them from there?
Did.
Yeah, these countries, man, they'll have like they'll have glow light Danios for a month, and then you won't be able to get them for 11 months.
Yeah.
So then you have to like realize like, oh, where's the best place to get them based on availability. So anyway, it was a good find. I'll give you
The question
credit
is,
where
did
credit's due.
Liv's list have any guppies on it?
I don't know. I never looked at her list. I just heard that there was another list.
Oh man.
I'm sure her list doesn't include guppies or endlers. So like that's where I'm meshing the two. But anyway, neither one of
Anywho.
your lists included snails.
I know. I thought about
No
that.
snails
I
whatsoever.
thought about that after I sent him like,
So it's always me being like, oh, like, okay, what snails do we need? So anyway, getting back to the snail talk, we actually have we have to submit an order today. What country is it? Bangkok. So Bangkok, my guy just got back to me. He's like, hey, Bangkok has these 2 new types of snails that you really should get. And they're sweet. They're sweet looking. So I won't reveal any details about them, but
have you ever heard of the candy cane snail?
no. What?
It is literally striped like a candy cane.
Is this a real
It's-
snail?
Yeah, it's like different
Are you
colors.
pulling my
too. I
leg?
promise. I was looking at it earlier.
Is it a freshwater snail?
I think so.
He's showing me saltwater snail.
Oh,
That's
that's a Caribbean snail.
a
But when we get saltwater, which
oh my
may be
God.
coming soon,
Whoa, no,
near
stop.
you.
It's- I don't know who
Just
he is
kidding.
and what he
Fake
did.
news isn't happening yet.
There is though. There's a snail that we got a while ago that we really want to breed. It's called the blueberry snail, and so we kept them for a while. We didn't have a ton of success with breeding them, but we're gonna retry when we get our snail system up and going. So anyway, we reordered them to just offer them on the website because obviously we want to provide them. So that's going to be a sweet snail that's coming soon, a blueberry snail. And then with the new system, I really want to ramp up our different types of rabbit snails because there's so many types. They're yellow spotted, yellow blotch, like white spotted,
Yeah, we had got
orange,
some,
yellow.
We got some orange.
chocolate.
Either they were orange or red,
blue.
but they literally look like volcanoes. Like in the red, just when they came out, it looked like
What?
just magna, like just lava just flowing.
I love the way that he talks about snails.
It was beautiful.
Oh my God. Was it fat? Was it fat?
Was it fat?
Yeah,
It was thick.
it was. I love it. So Emily, the short that you edited, I didn't get to watch it yet. Did you have in there the fat and beautiful?
Yes.
Like,
yes, I
did you have a
Oh, when I
Yes.
Oh, now
now
connections coming.
No, when we were filming, what was it? The members only.
Yeah.
I was telling him about the video that we shot together because we were down on that rack, and I was like, "Yeah, Jackson just kept saying they're fat and they're beautiful. They're fat and they're beautiful."
Now
the
So-
Buddha guppies. They're just
Yes.
we need to have a meme that like it's like I wish. What? Who said it? I think it was your wife. She was like, "We need to have a meme like I wish Cody talked about me the way he talks about guppies." It's like fat and beautiful. What was it? Oh my gosh, that's hilarious,
man.
dude.
crazy.
You are just perfect for content. You know what I mean?
Do I bring the viewers?
You do bring the viewers. You got the
Oh,
looks and the
man.
brains.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Stop it.
So did we ever
It's-
tell any
it's-
people we went to high school together? Yeah,
Maybe the first one. but-
only for a year. That's all I could tolerate.
Well, actually, 7th grade, because that's when we blended
Mm.
schools.
That is right. Yeah,
7th grade through 10th grade.
yeah,
Yeah.
Good times.
Mm-hmm.
You still traumatized from high school?
No.
I liked high school. I wish I would have stayed at Maplewood though. Good times. But hey,
Yeah,
if you never try, you never know.
right. But if the
Liv would
joke-
be proud.
the jokester over
digress.
here, though. He had to get all the teachers wound up and
Yeah, I
pencil
certainly
in the ceiling.
Yeah, I did do that. I don't know why. I wasn't always the best kid. But definitely enjoyed making people laugh. I enjoyed being the center of attention
Yeah.
when I was a kid, and yeah. Here
I do
am.
remember him being a clown.
Have I changed a lot?
No.
No. Wow.
Still likes to laugh a lot, which is good.
My buddy. Well, okay, so Snail. So
Yeah.
downstairs, the way that we're thinking, we have 6 125s. Obviously
side,
double stacked.
yep.
So there's 12, but we have 6 sections. In each section, we can do a sump and 18 tanks. And so just thinking through Snails in a perfect world, let's think through what this would look like. So like one section potentially for quarantine, right? So 18 tanks of quarantine, that's more than enough. One tank for, do we need a whole tank for ram's horn? That'd be a lot of ram's horn snails.
Well, it depends. I mean, we have the pink, the blue, the red. I mean,
Orange,
I mean,
assorted.
We might be going.
There's leopard ram's horn snails.
Why don't we have them?
Why not? Why didn't you order them?
I didn't even know they were a thing.
Yeah.
Now I do.
So like potentially, so like, okay, let's keep track. One for quarantine, one for ram's horn snails, definitely one for mystery snails, definitely one for rabbit snails, one for nearite snails, and then what?
Well, we have ponds for neorites too.
We do.
So
technically, but we should probably have one because if we're doing a bunch of different types of nearite snails rather than just big assortments, then it makes sense.
Yeah, red racers too.
Red racers, horn neorites. There's, I don't even know, 10 different types of horn neorite snails. Like there's probably 20 types of regular neorite snails.
We might have to have a tank for the cute and broken. Sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe each section will have its own cute and broken tank.
Or the assorted.
So we name all of our snails that come in that broken shells, don't really look great.
They weren't taken care of.
Yeah, they were neglected before getting to us, we'll say. We call them cute but broken. And then we sell those on the website.
Maybe some people can relate. Cute but broken.
Yep. We've all been there.
Oh man.
And then the last section, so we have one section left. Maybe it would be a new and rare section.
Maybe.
And that's where like the blueberry snails would fall into. And these
Can you think of any other rarities that we could possibly have?
I mean, dude, there's tons. So many different types of snails.
Anything on the top of your head that you would want to get sooner than later?
I would really have to think about it. Nothing off the top of my head. Because like realistically, this whole snail talk just started like 3 weeks ago where we're like, hey, it's kind of like when you're wearing a 32 waist jean and then all of a sudden it's like, gotta go to 34. Like it kind of just springs on you.
Oh.
I'm not speaking from experience, but maybe. But anyway, that's kind of how this whole snail thing happened. So like, I think we have our leadership planning session this Friday. I think that's really going to be a good time to like dive into it and be like, okay, like what can we do?
Yeah.
So
why don't you talk about the benefits of having the sump? Because I know a lot of people will question.
Oh, dude, I actually thought you were going a different direction. I thought you were going to say, let's do both of these things. Cause you brought up a really good point. Let's talk about the benefits of snails. So like, obviously we're talking about snails, but like, why should you keep a snail? So snails for me started with shrimp, and I was running into this issue where I would keep shrimp. Everything would be going great. My population's growing. They're having babies. Next thing I know, I started with 10 shrimp. Now I have 100 shrimp. And then all of a sudden, just mass genocide. All of a sudden, all my shrimp are dying. I don't know what's going on. I'm doing water changes, figuring it out. And then now I'm down to 20 shrimp. What happened? And it's because shrimp pretty much have a negative bioload, which basically means that like shrimp themselves cannot maintain beneficial bacteria, what we call a cycle. They can't maintain a cycle. So like you can get a tank cycled, know that it's cycled, add shrimp into it. Next thing you know, your cycle dies. And you don't even know.
Same with fish too. I mean,
yeah, so like it could happen with fish are a little bit dirtier, they're bigger, they can produce more waste. So like it doesn't happen as frequently. But like with shrimp, it definitely happens. And so like you think everything's going great. They're breeding. Well, like they're not producing enough waste to even qualify to keep the cycle alive. So next thing you know, as soon as you have 100 because they're doing good, now they have enough waste going on. The ammonia rises, kills everything. And so snails for me came into the picture with like, I need something in the tank that's not going to eat the shrimp that can keep the cycle alive. And snails are dirty creatures. So like that was like step one. The next thing was like I was using a lot of sand in my setups because pool filter sand is like dirt cheap. But what happens is like as organics get down into the sand, gas pockets develop of methane. I think it's methane. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's methane in the substrate. And then like when you go in there to like plant a plant and the substrate gets disturbed, and then all of a sudden these methane bubbles come out, pollute the water and potentially kill stuff. So I'm like, well, I can't have all these gas pockets developing. So getting snails that burrow in the substrate, this is where Malaysian trumpet snails really came in for me, is because they just burrow in the substrate all day. So they're constantly stirring the substrate, so you never get those pockets of like gas buildup. So that was like step.
So was that
two.
your first snail? Was it Malaysian trumpet?
Preach, yeah. Malaysian trumpet snail is like the bomb. And so those two reasons really like got me started in snails. And the next thing was like shrimp are so easy to overfeed. So like overfeeding is kind of like a pain in the butt. And so I'm like, okay, like if I'm overfeeding, like how about like if I have a snail in there, they're going to eat any leftover food. So now I'm not even worried about it. Like if I overfeed a little bit, snails got it. So I'm never feeding for snails. Snails are always a byproduct of like, if the shrimp population is doing good, there'll be less snails because there's less food for the snails. If the shrimp population I'm accidentally overfeeding, then the snail population will grow because there's excess food. And then I can kind of determine like, oh, I need to feed less, feed more based on the snail population. And so those three reasons are really like why snails are so beneficial for me as a shrimp hobbyist. And then like it grows from there. So like now it's like, okay, why should you keep snails? And those are good reasons. But like also if I don't have shrimp, maybe I still want to keep a good cycle. And so maybe I still need a cleanup crew. Maybe I need algae control. And so like there's snails that do different things. And so they're very like, it's kind of like having a perfect tool belt, like something for everything. So a well-balanced aquarium, in my opinion, should always include a type of snail because it just works. I mean, unless you have, you know, loaches that are going to eat snails, like sometimes that you couldn't have it, but for the most part,
and
like
it's crazy once you started to talk about how they work, because you know it was probably a couple months ago where I'm just like, I don't even know why we have these things, honestly, because it's like I don't know what they do. I don't know why they're here. They're just messy. They're just gross. They stink half the time. You know?
Yeah.
So like, you know, once we started talking about it, and then we started setting up the breeder tanks downstairs, you're like, throw a snail in there. I'm like, why? He's like, keep the cycle going. I'm like,
keep the cycle going, eat leftover food.
That makes sense. And then so we started talking about, you know, getting all that together and putting plants in there. And then you're going to have byproducts from all of those things when you're feeding, and you have, you know, you're starting to have babies. You want to make sure that cycle maintains. And then, you know, we started to throw some in there, and then all of a sudden there's hair algae. Well, what are we going to do with the hair algae? Throw a snail in there. You know? It's just like so many different things. You can just throw a snail in there. It's going to take care of a lot of things.
Yeah. They're great to have. They really are.
So each guppy breeding tank has some mystery snails in them. If you,
nice.
Yeah, probably the purple or the magenta ones, but
oh yeah. Is that the one you picked for? Oh my gosh. Did you put two in there so at least we have a chance of them breeding? Nice. That's good. So circling back to your original question, which was about the sump. So for me, one of the biggest things with snails is maintaining a higher temperature. Like snails prefer, I would say, I don't know of any snail that prefers a cold temperature. So most of them will thrive best in high temperatures, like 80 degrees. So
that doesn't mean they won't survive.
No, like right now we keep them at like room temperature in one of our pond rooms, like our fish room 3, and the temperature in there is like that tank water is probably like 65 degrees. Yeah. So like they do fine, but like if you're trying to like keep them at the peak of their existence and like really make them happy, they're probably going to like 80 degrees.
Yeah.
And so how can we maintain water quality the best way possible while also maintaining temperature without, keeping a room at, because in the room that we keep them, we have shrimp that prefer 68 degrees. So like, how do we do that? We can't throw a heater in every 10-gallon tank. Like that's not economical. We also can't worry about doing water changes on 120 tanks because that's not feasible. Like that's a lot of work that we're already doing with our fish. And we can't just throw extra work on ourselves, like with the team that we have. So like, we really have to get, ingenuitive. Did I get close?
I don't even know what the word is. I know you're getting there.
Ingenious.
Intuitive, but
No. So we have to think outside the box.
That's a good one.
And what did we break?
Our word expert.
What did we do? But
ingenuity.
Ingenuity. We kind of have a halfway. That's a word. So
Okay.
Ingenuity. So anyway, we had to get all this. We basically have to figure out how to manage 120 tanks with the least amount of effort possible so that we can focus on the care and not the maintenance. That's what it comes down to. So how are we going to heat these tanks? How are we going to maintain water quality? And it all came down to like, okay, a central system without it being completely one central system. So we don't want to put all of our eggs in a basket, but we're willing to put some eggs in this basket, some eggs in that basket, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So a central system allows us to maintain a cycle much easier, where if you have a 10-gallon tank, you sell through all the snails, you don't have snails in there for 2 weeks, you add snails back in it, that cycle is probably not going to do well. Like now you're adding turbo start, so on and so forth. It's much easier to have a central system with 18 tanks. Now the whole system's 220 gallons with a 40-gallon sump. We can have an automatic top off on that system. So like as the bagging team takes water out of there, we're not worried about, oh, now the filter's not running because there's not enough water. We need to teach them how to add water back in. Like it's all automatic. We can have water changes happen overnight while we're not here. So like there's a lot of things that we can do that, because water pressure is a huge issue for us. Like we have all these tanks, we're trying to do all these water changes. We don't have the water pressure to even do it. So like now how can we do water changes while we're not here? Snails is an easy one that like, hey, at 9 o'clock at night, it runs a water change for an hour. And then the next system runs for an hour. And then the next system runs for an hour, so on and so forth. So like,
makes sense.
We can do a lot of things that reduces the maintenance on our end. So that's basically where like sumps came in. It's basically like trying to simplify the system without making it too simple.
Right. And honestly, like thinking about the workload, even for us, because I mean, like I said, we're running all over the place. Those things to happen overnight and not have to worry about those things is just genius. Because like
helps so much.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. So yeah, dude, this whole new snail system, like game changer for us. Mm-hmm. It really is going to be.
Yeah, and we have our own snail sniffer too, who's probably going to be working those racks.
Old Jameson, our good old snail sniffer. So we always go through our snails, and like snails have a trap door, right? So they suck up into their shell, and they have a door that protects them. Well,
which is genius on God's part. Like, that's just a genius thing.
It's just evolution is just amazing. Which I mean, you can believe in God and still believe in evolution.
Sure.
Just
anywho,
I digress. I digress. Liv's proud of me. But yeah, so they get sucked up in their shell, and sometimes they die in there, and you have no way of telling. And so, like, if snails stink, they're dead. If they don't stink, they're alive. And so, poor Jameson, like, if we just got an import, we put all the ones that are alive into the tank that are on the glass, stuff like that. We get down to the remaining group that we're not sure about. And there's some that you can tell right away. Yeah, they're dead. And then there's a handful that you can't tell. And so it's literally like, ooh, yep, dead. Oh, good. Like that's Jameson's job. So somebody got to do it. And it's unfortunately our man Jameson.
He's a good sport.
He is what I would call a team player.
He is definitely.
He handles some stinky stuff.
That's crazy.
Even with the Daphne, like cleaning those filters, like sometimes them ponds get rank.
Yeah.
So, but the guy gets it done.
He does.
So huge shout out to Jameson this week. So anyway, Emily, before we get too much further, because I know we probably are getting close. What questions do we got? Do we got any questions from Facebook, Instagram, any members chatting it up? Any new members?
No new members since Paul, but still welcome.
Again, shout out to
Paul.
Paul. And Emily, we've been hearing a lot from Emily lately. Emily Reagan, which is
Mhm.
one of our Crystal Club members. So shout out to Emily Reagan. And then all the other Crystal Club members. I know Will, and then one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. I think there's 5 or 6 of them now.
Cool.
So shout out to all of our Crystal Club members. Appreciate you
Which
guys.
our first question actually comes from Emily.
Hey,
And she says, came prepared and ready with a question. How do we feel about scuds and a mystery snail shrimp combo tank?
Well,
wow. Scuds and snails, the scuds and mystery snails thrive together.
we found that out on accident.
They absolutely thrive. So like we set up all these brand new systems. Okay, go ahead, Cody, you just tell them about it because
so when
you
we,
live in this more than I do.
when we set up the newest snail rack, so we have what 37, 40 rack, 40, 10 gallon, 5 gallons, where we transferred all the snails to. When we have 2, how big are they? 180 ponds.
The ponds are 100 gallons.
Okay, so they're 100
Oh
gallons.
no, you're talking about the white ponds.
White ponds.
Yeah, they're roughly 180-ish gallons.
So those, those big white totes you see on farms and stuff, they have the glycogen or whatever. And
IBC totes. They're 275 gallons. We cut them down.
Yes, we cut them down. We use those for our live food breeding. So we have 2 of those full of scuds. And somehow in our mystery snail tank, somebody dipped a net or something. And
No, they come in. So like snails, again, they suck back up, and sometimes they'll suck up a scud inside their shell, like under their trap door. And then when we get them in, scud's just in there, and then one scud.
Totally thought that was our fault.
No, it's certainly not our fault. The byproduct of snails.
But I mean, they are thriving because you can look at the Matin filter and you're just all over the place in these snails tanks.
Yeah, we have like 3 snail tanks that have more scuds than our breeding tanks of scuds.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
It's definitely crazy. So it is definitely.
So how do we feel about it? I mean, the snail scud combo, feel great about that. They coexist perfectly together.
Yes.
I mean, if you have too many scuds, they'll harass the snails, which isn't good. So like you need a balance. Add 1 fish in there, and then there's the balance. But as far as shrimp go, shrimp and scuds not ideal, because scuds will harass the shrimp too much. Again, like in small populations it would be fine, but in large populations, yeah, scuds are just. Why don't you tell them about the scuds and blackworms?
So in our fish room, we have a 3-tier rack system. So basically, we pre-drilled, what are they, bulkheads?
Bulkheads for overflows.
For overflows, and they all run down into a central drain. But as they run down, so this tank drains, and then this tank drains, and this tank drains. So when we were doing water changes, the scuds were above the blackworms. And somehow, when that water change was going, the scuds went.
The 90 on our tanks is supposed to be pointing up.
Yes.
So somehow it got pointed like to the side or maybe down a little bit. And then, take it from there.
So then, and they do have they have a cover somewhat. I mean, it was more like one of those with the holes in it.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. So when it was pointed the direction it wasn't supposed to be, we did the water change, and all of a sudden we look in our blackworm tank, and it is full of scuds.
Yeah, a couple scuds rode the water slide down to the blackworm tank,
and we're like, "Where's all the scuds at?" And then we look down. Oh, there they are.
Yep. And then next thing you know,
they ate the blackworms.
No blackworms, all scuds. Now we don't have a blackworm tank there anymore. It's a scud tank. So literally,
but we did have blackworms, so then we were reproducing.
Yeah, we were able to get our blackworms in a different tank. So we do grow our own blackworms. It's an ongoing project that we're learning more and more about. But yes, the point that I bring that up is scuds eat live blackworms. So like Can they chomp off a leg of a shrimp? Absolutely. Can they eat an antenna of a snail? Absolutely. It's just how feisty are they and what, like, are they satisfied with what you're feeding them?
Yeah.
Things like that. So
Good question.
would I keep shrimp with scuds? I would not do it ideally. So good question, Emily. What else you got for us, DJM?
Paul wants to know. Well,
Hey, Paul, is that our new
That's
Crystal?
new Crystal.
Yeah.
New Crystal
Oh.
Club member, Paul? Let's go, Paul.
he said, "Will there be more color options offered in ram's horn snails?"
Oh, we did talk about
We
that
did.
earlier. So
Maybe
we
a
probably answered
leopard.
this question, but yes, potentially
Yes.
18 different types,
Potentially.
if there are that many. So tons of new types of ram's horn snails is our goal, and also to reproduce them.
Yes.
That's the big goal.
And then he also wants to know tips for getting different snails to breed.
Well, it depends on what kind of. Is there any specific?
He just said snails in general.
So I mean, I can kind of take this one over. Snails need calcium. So like calcium rich foods. So Karen, we can give a shout out to Karen. Karen's like our resident snail breeder extraordinaire and comes down quite often and
Malaysian
spends time with
trumpet
us.
snails.
Yeah, she's really good. So she gives us a lot of insight and helps us out a lot. But she gave us a really good idea for feeding snails. So we feed snails green beans. We do canned green beans just because it's convenient. She recommended frozen green beans.
Yes.
She said it's actually more cost effective. It's actually more nutritious because it's not canned.
Blanch 'em,
Yeah, they blanch them. And so like you literally just put them in the tank. You can put them in frozen and they'll sink right away because when things freeze, it breaks down the cell wall. So they're not going to float. And so like it might float for a season, like a little bit, but like most likely it's going to sink right away. And so, so a high quality food full of calcium. You don't want to feed things with added copper and iron.
Yes.
So like like a multivitamin that has copper and iron, not good. But a plant like a spinach or something like that that has potentially copper and iron in it, that is good.
Yes.
So like a naturally occurring one rather than a added one is good. Not an added one is not good. A naturally occurring one is good. And then I've always found using it's the cichlid sand. I've always had a ton of success with Carib Sea, I believe it is. It's like white and black sand. I've had a lot of success with that. A lot of people use crushed coral. And so having the higher GH, the higher KH, the KH is really important because it's the carbonate hardness. Having a pH above 7 so it doesn't break down their shells because acidic water will erode their shells.
Which
And
we
so-
talked about using crushed coral down. on
Yeah,
the
in the
tanks.
sump. Because
Yes.
now we don't have to use individual sand in every tank. We can have a sump with crushed coral and all the tanks glass so they're even easier to maintain.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things. The other thing is temperature. Like higher temperature will definitely increase breeding, depending on what you're breeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like there's a lot of things you can do to really ensure success with breeding snails.
Cool.
So great question, Paul.
And then our next question actually is from Paul as well.
Hey, Paul, man,
Um,
coming through strong.
Just really quick, he says, let's talk about setup, what's needed, steps, how long to wait to add snails.
Do you want to take a stab at this one? And then I can follow up.
Well,
So
I mean-
Cody's only been in the hobby for 6 months ish,
yes.
maybe a little bit more now. So yes, and what you deal with is just from the view of Flip Aquatics.
Right.
Besides the guppies, you've gone down the guppy rabbit hole and really know way more about guppies than I do, because that's what you do,
Yes.
Jay Guppy. But anyway, yeah, take a stab at this one.
As far as the snails go, so setup. Are we talking tank size, those kind of things too, or just
All of the
in his
above.
tank?
Give it all.
So
Don't be shy.
I mean, from the flip side, we use 5 and 10 gallons for that for our snails, and then
But going off the tune analogy, bigger is always better.
so in that case, the bigger tank you can get would be better.
More
Food
tune-
analogy short is out now.
Yeah.
Yes, but then you talked about substrate as well. Would
Yep.
they need to put substrate in with a regular aquarium if they're adding fish and stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unless I mean, substrate is important. So like the reason it's so important for us is because our tap water that we use is so soft. And so we need to make sure we have a substrate that's going to add calcium back in the water, increase the GH and KH. So like if someone's tap water or well water has a high GH and KH, then technically they wouldn't need an additive type substrate. They could use an inert substrate.
So then you could use that or your crushed coral that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would make sure that your tank is cycled, right?
Cycled is super important.
Make sure that you're putting it into,
because snails like a pH above 7, Turbo Start is a live bacteria that we use that's real easy for tanks that have GH and KH and a pH above 7.
right?
So
So in our tanks we do use turbo. So I would say make sure that your cycle is ready to go, and then I'm not sure about acclimating them if there's a difference.
So, I mean, snails are hardy.
That's what I thought.
So like just floating them for like to give you an idea, when we get them in, I mean, you see this because you get our imports. Like they literally come in, they don't even have water in the bag. Like they literally just send them in a bag, 500 snails. Here you go. So like our thing is like, we need to get them out of there as quick as possible. We float them for 5 minutes. So like
sometimes they send them in those containers like you get your blueberries and strawberries from.
Yep.
With the holes in it, literally no water. It's like, what are we thinking here?
It doesn't some things don't make sense. But
yeah.
Sometimes they all come in alive. Sometimes every single one's dead. It's just
and it stinks.
Nature of the beast. Yeah.
So I mean you can,
and it stinks in multiple ways, right?
Sure.
The smell and also
that we lost
that they died.
Yes. So why don't you follow up with what else he should do?
Follow with what?
What else he should do for his tank?
I mean,
if there's anything else.
So there are very few times that I say you should use a heater in an aquarium. Snails, if you have a snail specific tank, that is a time that I would use a heater, because snails are so hardy that like the increase and decrease in temperature, the fluctuation isn't enough for snails to cause any type of harm, in my opinion. And so like I would definitely use a heater. Some snails eat plants, so like live plants for most snails is fine, but some plants probably wouldn't be good. Staying towards plants like Anubias would probably be a safe bet because it's a much denser plant, harder plant. They're not going to eat it as easy. I know
filtration.
So again, snails are dirty creatures. Like just in like they eat anything. They're vacuums. Like they're disposals. Like they're just going to eat whatever. So like naturally they're pretty dirty. So like the more filtration you could do, the better. So, you know, normally I recommend a sponge filter, which you can get away with a sponge filter, but like you're going to be cleaning that sucker a lot with snails. So like if you could do a canister filter, if you can do 2 different types of filters, so maybe a sponge filter and hang on the back, something like that, it'd be good. The only thing is like if you're really trying to breed them, baby snails can easily find their way into a filter and get chomped up. So making sure that you have filter guards, sponge filter guards, we sell those. Mat filters, things like that would prevent issues from happening.
Cool.
So yeah, but I think based on what you said and you know the couple little things that I added, like I think that you can get a pretty good setup going.
Cool.
We'll probably have a video coming on that sometime soon.
Probably once we get those racks set up.
New year, we're starting our long form content. Wait, what? Oh, they're laughing at the chat. So they have the advantage of reading the chat. So like, just so you guys know, like what goes on here, me and Cody are up here having these great in-depth conversations, saying really educational things. Then all of a sudden 3 people behind the scenes start. That's what we got.
So moving on.
I have a question. that a lot of our customers email Jenna, and Jenna always asks me, and I'm like, Jenna, it's a good question. But I don't know why or why not air stones.
So I'm in one of those awkward situations where I have ice in my mouth. It's gone. Okay, so why air stones? That's a great question. So let's say you have a puddle, right?
Is this an analogy, Rob?
This would be an analogy. Everybody buckle up. Analogy on its way. So a puddle is, it's just out there. And let's say you have, I don't know, a fish and you put a little minnow in the puddle. Like technically the water size is big enough for the minnow to grow. But eventually the minnow is going to die. And it's not because of like it ate too much and it pooped in there and it died. It's because like it depletes the amount of oxygen in that puddle. So like when you have surface agitation, that allows carbon dioxide to escape from the water, which basically puts oxygen back into the water. So like by having surface agitation of an air stone, it's going to make sure that the level of oxygen remains the same. So like that's what it does. So basically anything that disturbs the substrate of water is going to allow it. So like if you had the puddle and it just continuously kept raining, the raindrops hitting the puddle and like causing the splashing would allow that fish to live in there, right? And so like I'm sure that we've all seen ponds that like are doing great. There's tons of fish in there, and then all of a sudden it's just mass deaths. And like you just see dead fish everywhere on top of the pond. Usually that happens because like they don't have sprinklers in the center of the pond, and there's not the constant water flow that's disturbing the substrate. So like that's one part of it. The other part would be like toxic gases tend to settle at the bottom, right? And if you don't have something that is constantly moving water from the top to the bottom to make sure it's completely like circulated, then like everything at the bottom is going to die.
Yeah.
And then it's going to float to the top, and then it's going to make the process worse. And so an air stone normally is at the bottom of the tank, and it's continuously moving water from the bottom of the tank to the top of the tank. So like it's creating that. So like air stones are very beneficial. We don't use them in all of our tanks. Like I guess in a sense we use them for all of our matin filters and our sponge filters. So in a sense we do, but like all these breeding tanks in the gallery, we don't have any air stones in them. We just have a filtration. But like if the power went, well, I guess if the power went out, air stones wouldn't work anyway. But like if your filter stopped working, but it had an air stone, so like we've had situations where like our filter gets clogged, but if it had an air stone, like the livestock would likely still be okay because like it's not going to lose the oxygen, like the water's still getting moved around, it's not going to get stagnant. So like there's a lot of situations where air stones are very valuable. So like if I was setting up a tank at home and I had one aquarium, I would probably always have an air stone in it just because the benefits of having an air stone outweigh the risk of not having one.
Can that be run off of the same thing that powers your regular filter? Like,
so if they're using a sponge filter, then yes. But if they're using a sponge filter, it's already like having an air stone.
Yeah.
So if they're running a hang on the back or a canister filter, then they would need an air pump to power an air stone as well. So that's where like if you're gonna have an air stone, you might as well just throw an extra filter in there and have a sponge filter or a matin filter.
right.
So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and it made me think of it when I was taking down the 125s yesterday because we all had them in there. So it kind of sparked it. And then, Jenna's asking me a couple times. I'm like, yeah, that's a good question. I still haven't asked you about it. But
yeah.
So
perfect time to ask about it.
Yeah.
What else we got, DJ?
Emily says, I have this amazing accidental culture of green water going. Would this be beneficial to add to the snail shrimp tank?
So green water, in my opinion, is always beneficial. Like green water is like,
oh, I thought she said rainwater.
no,
Sorry.
Green water, like there's nothing wrong with green water. Like there's nothing bad about green water. The only downside to having green water is you can't see the livestock. So like, let's say your tank is full of green water and 3 snails die just because of old age. Well, like there's no way of knowing that unless you're like literally going in there and like digging your hand in and moving the snails around and pulling them out. So like it could cause issues. Like when we get green water, we had Daphnia take care of it, and then the green water is gone, and then we have tons of Daphnia. So
although Guppy Joe told me that fry actually do really well with green water because it's packed full of nutrients.
Absolutely. Well, green. So I guess I digress.
No, what I was going there is like Joe said, hey, if you find some green water, give them a little bit of it because that's
Absolutely, they can eat the green water
yes.
because
But
like
yes,
green water is technically like a microorganism,
Mhm.
right? And babies eat microorganisms. So basically, it's like feeding them.
yeah,
But that's like, baby brine is probably a better food source. But like if we
Sure.
had green water, it's good to add. So like snails, if you're just adding green water for a snail tank, does the green water benefit the snails? I mean, maybe a little bit, but like I don't think it's like enough that like would warrant me like, hey, every time we have green water added to the snail tanks. Like
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do that. If I had a snail tank at home, I probably wouldn't add green water to it. But like if my snail tank had green water, I wouldn't think of it as a bad thing.
yeah.
Is basically what it is. Yeah. Good question.
Have you ever
Emily.
seen The Never-Ending Story?
I actually haven't. Maybe I have when I
I
was
think
a
I've
kid.
watched it one time, but that big white creature. What's his name, Emily?
You know what's bad is I literally was like, what is his name? I know exactly what you're talking
When
about.
the loach was going across, it looked like he was flying through the sky.
Oh,
was
like that creature.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know the
it
name
just
either.
made me think of it. Sorry for the side note. but
Is it Atreyu? I think
I
it's
wouldn't know
I
if,
think it's
honestly if you even
Atreyu.
told me.
Pregu.
'Cause
I don't
I've
know
Probably
either.
seen it one time.
Well,
Any other questions?
Yeah. Chevy Fish wants to know.
Chevy fish.
So, what snail shells can handle the soft water Caridina parameters? What do you use to keep their shells from corroding?
So, do you want to take a stab at this?
No.
No. So any snail can survive in a low pH. The only thing is you really have to make sure that you're providing them the calcium in a different way other than it just being in the water column and like getting a little bit from their food. So like a lot of people will recommend like Cuttlebone. Like we personally don't feed Cuttlebone. So like I can't be like, hey, like jump on Amazon, you can order it here and feed it to your fish or feed it to your snails and this is how much to feed because we don't use it here. But I know a lot of people that have soft water can use things like Cuttlebone to make sure that they're getting the calcium they need so that their shell won't break down. So like that's what I would recommend.
So if you added a crushed coil, that would raise the pH and that would not be good for the shrimp.
Yeah.
So
like ramshorn snails, like if you get things that have fast growing shells like ramshorn snails, like my gosh, like we could have 1,000 ramshorn snails in a Caridina tank and it's like no problem. Like they're just doing their thing. So like that's the other thing that you could do too. They might not live as long in a lower pH unless like you're really trying to like manage it as far as like Cuttlebone and things like that, which shrimp could also benefit from the Cuttlebone. So like that'd probably be like my go-to thing. Yeah. Good question, Chevy Fish.
Are all snails good for algae cleanup?
Well, I guess like the easiest way that I could address this is like what snails are bad for algae cleanup? Like rabbit snails, I don't think I've ever like noticed like, oh yeah, my rabbit snail is like tearing up that algae. Like I just don't think that's like their normal like MO. Pond snails, like bladder snails, like I guess, but like they would just take over the tank. Like
that's tough.
Yeah, they're just like they're like, oh, like that mouse is cute. Like I'm just gonna let it live. Next thing you know, there's thousands of mice in your house, and like they're not so cute anymore. They ate my Doritos. Like, you know what I mean? So like there's a couple, but like I will say the ones that are best for algae, mystery snails and nearite snails. Like if you're looking for like an algae eating snail, those are the two I would go with. If you don't want them to breed, nearite snails are great. If you want something that could breed but also you can manage, mystery snails are great.
But if you do have an algae problem, I know where you can get an algae cleanup crew for a great deal.
Where?
At Flip Aquatics.
So we do have, what is an algae cleanup crew?
So we offer, I think, 4 different types of fish. One being the Dr. Fish, the Gara Panda, which is the brother of the Dr. Fish. Panda Gara. And then we have the Otocinclus and the Siamese algae eater. And those are all offered,
great algae eaters.
Absolutely. And those are all offered with nearite snails. And they come with a fish, the nearite snails, and then a mono shrimp.
Yes, you pick your fish, and then with your fish, you get the mono shrimp and the nearite snails.
Yes. Great deals.
Great deals. Man, you're getting a bonus.
Oh.
Shock.
Well, that is it for the questions right now, I believe. But I did just want to throw in here. Somebody said Rob sniffing the imaginary snail about had me spit out my coffee. It says I know that
we're
game.
here,
It's like
please.
Russian roulette.
Oh, it
It
is.
definitely is.
I
Because
had
until you
to
get
do it.
right here, you don't smell it. I mean, it's like,
Oh, no, you got like the worst. And I actually experienced this because Jameson was sick for a week. He got real sick. And so it was Thursday, and I'm like, these snails need some maintenance. And so, I pulled up my sleeves, got in there, and there was a group that I had to go through. And it's always worse when like you go to sniff and you kind of like lose your concept of space, and they touch your nose, and then it's also dead, and then you have that smell of just dead snail on your nose all day.
and then you go on lunch.
Yeah, no, you do not go on lunch after that. You let the day go for a bit before you get that appetite.
And you
back.
make sure you take out the trash.
Yes. Yeah. We have a no trash throwing away snail policy here at Flip Aquatics, because in the past people have thrown snails in the trash, and then the trash doesn't get taken out over the weekend. You come in Monday and it's like the aroma
Oh man,
The aroma.
is something that you just can't forget. So
I smell it now.
Emily Reagan has a last minute question
ooh,
for
give it
us.
to us.
She
We always
said,
got time for Emily.
how concerned should I be with mystery snails and my precious pea puffer tank? Will they be
So,
accosted? Accosted?
so, puffers in general can be little stinkers. They can be. But with a mystery snail is literally 100 times the size of a pea. Maybe not 100 times, maybe 10 times the
10
size of a pea puffer. So, like, I think a pea puffer would look at that snail and just be like, yeah, like,
Pick and choose my battles.
yeah, like not today. But then you could also have like a little pea puffer that's got a couple girls around and wants to show off, and he's like, let me show you what I can do to this snail, and then just harass the guy.
Now, if you add one of the figure 8 puffers that I just added to our inventory list today,
Are they actually in stock on the website? We actually have a listing for them now.
I made it.
What? Does that have a picture yet?
Of course not.
Because it happened this morning. So the figure 8 puffers, we just got those in. That's a new type of puffer we're going to be offering. Now those would definitely munch away.
Mouths are like,
So you actually can't keep any fish with a figure 8 puffer
I wouldn't want to.
because anything that's other than another figure 8 puffer, it's like, yeah, let me taste that. So yeah,
It's gonna be like those
I would
tiger
not
barbs.
keep anything. Like, and it's funny because I fed them yesterday, and I really wanted to get them to eat the Bug Pro, the Northwind Bug Pro, and I fed it, and they kind of like went after it. Then I fed them frozen food, and they were like, like.
I put on the tank feed more.
If
'cause
you
I
make
think
a
they're
short out of
they're
that,
hungry.
you're done. You're done for.
I was making sure the other camera was
Yeah,
videoing.
you are done for. No, I'm just kidding.
You're done.
You're done. No, Emily comes out with some pretty fun shorts.
I just wish that the toot analogy video was better quality, so we're working on it.
That's okay.
I'm sure it'll come up again.
It-
Just be ready to record.
This week,
I mean,
it'll
pretty
be
much
about
every live stream we
puzzles.
talk about toots. If you guys haven't heard the toot analogy,
Oh man.
definitely check out our shorts on YouTube and you can find it.
I just want to know why it came up. Like, what made you think of that as being the best analogy?
well, so here's what happens.
I think it
Like,
was the food poison.
listen, this is what actually happened.
He was running.
So I'm on stage. I'm giving a talk at Aquashella.
Wait, so this is like a known analogy that you've said before?
Yes. This
in
is
front
like
of
my
hundreds
go-
of people.
Yes,
I
this
thought
is my
you just
go-to.
came up with it.
No, this is my go-to analogy. So like
Did they question you? Like,
literally, this is how this all happens.
You're on stage.
I'm
at
on
Aquashella.
stage. I got 100 people watching me, and I'm talking about why larger aquariums are better. And like, I don't have an analogy for it, but like, I'm a man of many analogies. And so like analogies are just the easiest way to relate to someone, like get your point across. So I'm up on stage and I have all these people and like my stomach's upset. Like it really is upset. And so I'm thinking like, what a great analogy. I'm just like, listen guys, like I know my wife's going to kill me, but here's the thing. Like I'm up here on stage and if I pass gas right now, none of you would know. None of you would know unless you heard it in the front row. Like you just wouldn't know. And so they're all laughing. I'm just like, but let's all go jump in an elevator together. And if I pass gas, you're all going to be like, Rob, you are the dirtiest man I've ever met in my life. And I'm like, that's the analogy of having a big aquarium versus a small aquarium. Like, and so like people were like in our toot video analogy, people were arguing like, well, don't make mistakes. And it's like, it ain't even about mistakes. Like, let's say you have a 1 gallon aquarium. The evaporation on that aquarium is going to happen. And if you're not topping off that aquarium, like now those parameters have changed so much that it's going to hurt your livestock. But if you have a 125 gallon tank, the evaporation and adding in a gallon for evaporation, the fish don't even notice the difference. So like, again, like, are you going to top off that aquarium every single day with distilled water to make sure that you don't have fluctuations that hurt your livestock? Or are you just going to have a 125 that you have to top off every 2 weeks? Like, yeah, what's the level of work you want to do?
My question is, who's going to carry it in your house? Because
yeah, 125s are heavy after today. So yeah, so that's where the toot analogy came from.
I thought it was going to be like a toot analogy, like if you toot in the forest and nobody's around, did you actually toot?
yeah,
Something crazy.
Did you toot?
I don't know.
Cody's a tutor, man.
Oh my god!
I always walk into the fish room. I'm just like, no, Cody's been in here.
It's definitely not the fish, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely not the snails.
Guys,
We always
I'm
joke
cleaning
when you're sniffing snails, no one would know if you're tooting because like the snails stink so bad. So like if you got gas, work on snails for a day,
or food poisoning,
or get food poisoning. Yeah. So any last minute questions before we wrap this sucker up?
Nope, I don't think so.
Hey, we're 15 minutes over, so we're cutting into your lunch break. Now you only get 45 minutes.
Well,
no. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed our little talk about snails and toots. I do want to say next week we are talking about crayfish. So Jay Guppy will be back for that. And we'll be talking about all the crayfish. Yeah, we never did talk about when you're doing your vacation. Did we?
Nope. Sure didn't.
So apparently he's not taking one.
Oh,
here we go. No, but we'll be back next week. Hopefully Cody will be here for that
I
one.
might be able to come in for an hour.
What a guy. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. All you club members this weekend, Sunday, 6:00, doing our first Get Equipped with Flip session. And that'll be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that as well. Set your reminders on the live stream because that will be it'll be a great time. What? Oh, we got one more thing.
One more question.
DJM's telling me to pause.
Emily wants to know, Jay Guppy, when can we expect those fancy guppies to go up on the site?
So we do have a 2-week quarantine process. And since we do order from all over the world, we have to take into account that there could be a possibility that they didn't send them well. So once we get them and go through that 2-week quarantine process, if we need to medicate, if we need to do anything like that, by 2 weeks, if they're good to go, we'll have them on the site.
Yep.
Especially the guppies.
The new ones we get next Monday.
Right.
And then quarantine for 2 weeks. So like you will potentially see them 10 days on the website 10 days after we receive them. So like a following Thursday.
Yes.
But then they're good to ship by the following Monday. So
Yes.
like by the time we actually send them, it's 2 weeks.
Yes.
So that's
but
how
they'll
we
be
do
on
it.
the website 10 days.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
that's
but
what we
they're
got.
going to be some pretty suckers. I'll tell you that.
They're going to
pretty
be
unique
fat
too.
and
Beautiful and fat.
I'll give one away is a red swamp guppy.
Yeah.
Mm.
That was a So was that already on your list of things to
It
get?
was, and I sent it to Amanda.
That's funny.
And I'm like, I found it. And she's like, I did too. So she was going through
Red
the list
swamp
too.
guppies. It's the smallest.
It's a
According to
micro.
Amanda, I haven't done my own research. It is the smallest guppy. It looks just like an endler, but it is not an endler. It's a guppy.
Right.
We might have to have Joe verify that it doesn't have it
I
has
mean,
the
I think
extra
we're gonna have to do a
chromosome.
blood draw to get those 3 chromosomes. But
Good old
they're
Joe.
only sending males unless they
No,
somehow.
I requested.
I saw that.
So I sent my boy, I sent my man Mark a message, and I said, oh no, he sent me a message. He's like, if they only have males, do you still want them? I was like, yes, but please request females. He's like, yeah, no problem.
Or else Joe and I have to come up with a plan with breeding and figure out how we can get that working. But
I'm sure at some point we'll be able to get females.
yes.
So,
Yeah,
coming
but
soon.
That's talking about like how the imports come in though, because those Dumbo Platinum Reds, how they came in. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't get what you request. And
Yep.
they send it. The females we got there was a mix of mosaics.
See, look what you did. You got him started on guppies.
Well,
Here we are. It's going to be 12 o'clock. And then he's going to be like,
The
well, I
people
didn't get
wanna
my lunch
know."
today.
Anywho, story for another day.
Yeah. Next week.
Yes.
We can talk more about next week.
And crayfish.
And crayfish.
So basically 10 days
Yes.
to answer the question.
10 days from the day that it comes, and we get imports mostly on Mondays. So always check on Thursdays. That's
You
the
might
big
not
day.
be able to see a picture of them, but
Yeah, our picture department is
We're working on it. We're working on it.
no, our marketing team's phenomenal.
I give them an 8.
I give them
Whoa.
an 8. Yeah. We're only at a 6, right? Yeah, we're getting there. But hey,
But it's better than a 2.
it is way better than the 2 that Rob was before anybody was here. So we're getting back to it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. All you club members out there, we so appreciate your support, and we hope that you enjoy and find value in our club. And so if you ever have any suggestions, feel free to send us a message, an email. Jenna, Leather, Emily, everyone on our marketing team would be more than happy to try to figure out how we can do things better. So I see our old grumpy man Mark in the background, so he's got some stuff for us. We better get out of here. You guys make it a great day. As always, God bless, and we'll catch you on the flip side.